Okay. If I'm wearing the same pajama shirt as yesterday, but I'm wearing jogging pants instead, does it still count as wearing pajamas? Let me know in the comments below. All right, we are back. Another day, another set of new cards revealed from the upcoming Legends of Runeterra expansion, Empires of the Ascended. That is coming out next week on Wednesday. We're less than a week away. We got another champion revealed today. It is Kindred from the Shadow Isles region. In usual fashion, we also got a bunch of other new Shadow Isles cards that were revealed, and I'll just say this, Nasus is looking more promising. But not only that, these Shadow Isles cards, they might be the most flexible cards we've gotten so far, meaning they have uses in multiple different styles of decks. Then again, it is Shadow Isles, so that doesn't surprise me that much. All right, let's first start off by talking about Kindred. Kindred is a 5-mana 4/4 with quick attack. The first time you slay a unit each round, I mark the weakest enemy. At the end of the round, kill my marked enemy. In order for Kindred to level up, Kindred has to see you slay 2 of their marked enemies. Level 2, Kindred is a 5/5 with quick attack that reads, the first time you slay a unit each round, grant me +2/+2, and I mark the weakest enemy. Round end, kill my marked enemy. So, we basically got the other half to Nasus decks. Nasus. Wow. I knew I was gonna eventually do that. Confuse the two. Not confused, but say Noxus when I meant Nasus and say Nasus when I meant Noxus. Yeah, that type of thing. Anyway, I think if anyone still had any doubts on Nasus being a thing, Kindred should erase those doubts. I also think that this reveal kind of debunks what I said yesterday about Sundisk being the best deck for Nasus, because the synergy between Nasus, Kindred, the other new Shadow Isles cards we got today that we'll talk about later, and even some of the Shurima cards really makes a case for Nasus, Kindred, Shadow Isles to be a thing in some form. A lot of players are saying the Undying is the deck to build between everything that was revealed the past 2 days, and that Undying has 2 playable champions now in Kindred and Nasus. I want to take a wait and see approach. That's a little boring, I know, but I'm concerned with Undying being a card that's so bad that the rest of the cards in the deck have to hard carry it to wins. If that's the case, Nasus Kindred decks are actually going to be better off without the Undying. The Undying is naturally a slow card. Not only that, but even in a deck where it's not the main focus, it's historically not been very good. So this might finally be the Undying's time to shine, but I am still skeptical. Let's talk about Spirit Journey next. 5-mana fast spell, kill a unit, then revive it. In the case of Kindred's champion spell, you create a Kindred in your deck. So this not only pairs well with Kindred and Nasus, but it's also kind of a way for Shadow Isles to protect its units at fast speed in general. So even outside of decks running those champions. It has good synergy with Anivia in particular, because this prevents your unit from getting obliterated from invoke spells coming from Targon, for example. So Anivia decks might try to find a way to fit this in if they're still going to be viable once this expansion releases. That said, even though this is a fast spell, 5 mana is not cheap. So if you run this card for primarily defensive reasons, you'll only want to save this for protecting your high value units, which are typically more expensive. I can't think of anything you would want to protect that's cheap with this card, except for maybe the Undying, and only if you've managed to get it going already, I would say. It's not even that powerful with Kindred if you use this on enemies, because you're still just taking out their weakest unit end of round when you do, though that does help Kindred level up. Next we have Lamb's Respite, 2 mana slow spell, give the weakest ally I can't take damage or die this round. So a bit of an unyielding spirit effect we've got going on. This is kind of an odd one to me, to be honest. I don't want to say it's awful, because even though it's a slow spell, it is cheap to play, and being able to use your action without committing too much mana in LOR is generally a good thing. It has decent synergy with the sacrifice cards that Shadow Isles has, and it's even pretty good with Kindred and the new Spirit Leech card in particular, which again we'll get to later. Especially since based on the reveal trailer today, the unit that this spell is cast on still counts as being killed if it's targeted by something that would normally kill it. I just don't know if the effect on this is enough to warrant card slots in a deck. It feels very combo centric, to the point where this doesn't do much of anything without other specific cards in your hand. And I'm usually not a fan of those types of cards unless it's in a dedicated combo deck like Fiora or even Lee Sin. All right, once again, we have switched graphics. Again, shout out to Kozmic for putting together this all-in-one graphic. You did get all the cards on there this time. Good job, Kozmic. Clap it up. But yeah, Kozmic's been doing these since Rising Tides, when that was first announced. Feel free to check out his Twitch stream. The link is above my head. He does stream Legends of Runeterra mainly at night, although he does stream other games as well. I believe he's streaming other games currently until the new set comes out, and then he'll be back to LOR. So yeah, feel free to check out his Twitch stream above. Next, let's talk about Fading Icon. 2 mana 3/1. When I'm summoned, summon a Prey. The Prey is a 0 mana 0/1 with no other text. This combos decently well with Ancient Crocolith, as well as just Nasus Kindred decks in general. A 3/1 unit for 2 mana is not that impressive, but it's really about the extra body it generates for utility purposes. And sometimes the 3/1 is going to trade up against some 3-drops, against decks that lack ping effects anyway. I could even see myself running this in Kalista style decks if she continues to be a thing. One issue those decks have is not having enough targets to sacrifice the Blighted Caretaker early on, unless you run Hapless Aristocrat, Warden's Prey, and Curse Keeper all in the same deck, which Endure does do, but that's not the only way to actually build Endure decks. Even then, though, this still gives you one extra body that fights for board a little better than Hapless Aristocrat does. A card I personally feel is a little overvalued, especially if you decide to run the Harrowing in the same deck as Aristocrat. All right, Song of the Isles. 2 mana, burst spell, grant an ally lifesteal, fearsome, and ephemeral. I like the flavor of this card more than anything because it's a red card, kind of red anyway, just because of the art on it, but it's still in Shadow Isles, not Nasus where you would normally see that red color. But anyway, as far as where this could be good, the only 2 decks I could see are Hecarim decks, particularly with ones running Zed and Deathmark, aka the classic ephemeral midrange, or in Kindred decks, of course, since Kindred will mark and kill the weakest enemy once the ally buffed by this card dies. There's other applications in Shadow Isles as well, with just Last Breath units you want to sacrifice in general. It's not the best card in this group by a long shot, but it's not bad either. Next we have Mask Mother. 2 mana 2/2 with fearsome, play, kill an ally to grant me its stats and keywords. So this is going to be a bit of a rant and not so much about how good this card is, although I'll talk about that too. This is yet another card in Legends of Runeterra that frustrates me due to how it's worded. But when reading cards in this game, you kind of have to read it from a perspective of how the designers view card text and not how you understand it. even if there is a valid argument that for your perception of that card text. What I mean is that, let's say Mask Mother targets a 1/1. What is very likely the case is that Mask Mother will be a 3/3 afterwards, because that's how the rules of LOR work in regards to texts like Grant. But you could also argue that Mask Mother literally becomes a 1/1 with the way this is worded. Again, that is very, very likely not the case, especially when you consider how the word copy is treated in LOR, although it would be funny if that was the case. But like the old text on Commander Ledros was another perfect example of this, and how a lot of players had valid arguments saying that Ledros should leave the player with 1 extra health based on his old wording of what a rounded number was. But regardless, this card is pretty insane in any Shadow Isles deck. At least the ones that are focused on Shadow Isles anyway. Especially since it's been confirmed that it doesn't grant keywords that the game views as negative, like vulnerable or even ephemeral. Yet another argument towards this not losing stats when it targets a smaller unit. I don't see this not getting played. And if it doesn't, it'll be because the base stats are too low, or that the meta is hostile towards 2-mana 2/2s no matter what their abilities are. That's the only way Mask Mother doesn't get played. All right, onto Dusk. 2-mana burst spell, draw 1. Nightfall, activate an ally's Nightfall effect, ignoring any targeted portions. So if nothing else, this will probably see play in Invoke decks that run Aphelios. They'll appreciate the card draw and being able to activate Aphelios again after playing him. This could see play in dedicated Nightfall decks, but I'm a little less excited about that one since they're much more aggressive, and they usually, but not always, want spells that directly impact the board. Yes, the deck runs spells like Stalking Shadows and Fading Memories, which don't do that, but they are spells that eventually lead to board impact, even though they don't have impact initially. Unto Dusk could do the same thing, but there's always that chance that it doesn't by drawing into some other spell that doesn't matter in the situation you're in. All right, Spirit Leech. 4-mana, 4/1. Play, kill an ally to draw 2. I think this card has a ton of potential, especially if you run it with Lamb's Respite, although you really don't need Respite to make this card good in my opinion. Shadow Isles just has so many natural synergies that pair expendable units, whether they have Last Breath or not, with this card and other Shadow Isles cards like Ravenous Butcher. The 1 health is only a concern against decks that have access to ping effects, but even if the meta is hostile towards 1 health units, that doesn't make this card unplayable. Depending on the game plan of your deck, this could replace Chronicle of Ruin. I think this is one of the best cards that they revealed today, if I'm going to be honest. And finally, we have the Etherfiend. 7-mana, 6/4 fearsome with a play skill called Second Death, where you kill an ally to kill an enemy. This is similar to Raz from Shurima. It's not a terrible card, but it's not great either. It's comparable to Vengeance, which I maintain is also not a good card, but it's not unplayable either. This one at least gets you a body with it, even if the play skill gets countered in some way. Although for a 7-drop, no, the stats are not great. It's not a great attacker that late in the game, round 7 and onwards. Like Fearsome really, really falls off. Definitely by that time. It's an even worse blocker, but it's something. This also requires another body on board for the skill to go off, unlike Vengeance. But I still don't think that makes it much worse than Vengeance. That said, this card isn't good when you're behind. You need to be at least at parity against your opponent. And those are all the cards that were spoiled today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Really appreciate it if you made it to the end here. If you did, feel free to hit the like button. And if you don't want to miss more videos from me, consider subscribing to the channel, hitting the notification bell. That way you're guaranteed to never miss a video from me. And we're just going to keep it going and do more of these reviews. Plan to do it all the way up to release day. But yeah, thanks again for taking time out of your day to watch this. And I'll see you all next time.